Welcome to On the Line. Today, I got a pretty special guest. He's an undefeated fighter in the Bantamweight Division of the UFC. It is Jack Shore. How we doing, man?
I'm good, my man. I'm good.
Good, good. Love to hear it. So officially, your nickname is Tank, but some people have called you Jack Shormagomedov. Some people have called you the Welsh GSP. Is the haircut now just kind of to embrace all these comparisons?
A couple of people have asked that. To be honest, I shaved my ear off back last year before the whole COVID thing happened. I just fancied it. I was sick of my fringe going in my eyes doing sparring and doing training. So I shaved it off, and then obviously lockdown and stuff come, so all the barbers closed. So I started growing it back, and then I just thought, you know what, it started to get on my nerves again. So I've shaved it off. Believe it or not, it's not to mimic Khabib as such, but it's just going to draw those comparisons even more, I'm sure, with the skinhead.
Yeah, for sure. So was it just getting? I feel like whenever I see fighters moving their hair, I feel like that's got to be just some kind of a disadvantage. Just always having to worry
Yeah,
about getting the hair out of your eyes.
like once it's sweaty and wet, it's not too bad because it just sort of glues to your hair. But it's like the first 5 minutes where it's just floating about everywhere. And what I noticed as well is because my hair was quite long on top. Like when you get caught with a punch, it makes it look a lot worse than what it is because your hair is springboarding all over the place. So it maybe that can factor in with the judges and stuff like that. Maybe that was a subconscious decision that if I get cracked of a shot now, there's no hair flying everywhere to make it look worse than what it is.
Makes sense. And also when you get hit, sometimes a hit sweat goes flying, so it looks a lot worse,
Yeah, that's it.
things like that. Exactly, yeah. So then your dad also another little Habib kind of parallels. Your dad's your coach. What's that like?
Yeah, man. It's I mean, like people ask me, is it different, to usual? But he's always been my head. I've got other coaches, I've got like a boxing coach, a Thai boxing coach, a wrestling coach, stuff like that. But he's always been my head coach since my very first amateur fight. So to me, it's just the normal. It's not like I've got anything to compare it to because every time I've had a fight or a competition, my father's always been the coach, the head guy in the corner. So I mean, it works. Obviously, we've been pretty successful between competitions and fights and everything. But as far as like how it compares to a normal fighter coach relationship, I'm not sure because he's always been my head coach. So, but he doesn't treat me any different in the gym to any of the other guys. I get treated the same as all the other fighters. He expects the same from me, if not more than what he expects from the other guys in the gym. So, we definitely distinguish the relationship differently in the gym and in the cage compared to how we are at home. His father and son at home, but his coach and fighter in the gym. So I think that's why we work so well.
Did when did he stop rolling with you? When did he stop wrestling with you? And when did you start dominating him, if you guys did?
Not that long ago. It would have. I mean, he's 50 this year now, my father. So he's just had a knee operation. His good knee needs work. He's got just typical guy. Can't get him off the mat, so he's constantly like nursing these little niggles. So the last couple of years, my youth and my athleticness has been able to take over a little bit. But he was giving me hell right up until about 2 years ago, until his knees and his arms started to give him a bit of trouble. But his bodies give out on him, I think, before his skill set. But he's now he's had the knee op. I'm sure he's going to come at me like a bull in a china shop now when the recovery's done.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so let's go back to your last fight. You won via split decision, kind of controversial split decision, if I will say so myself. You won the first and third. You second, kind of a toss up. You finished 12 of your 14 fights. But they've all kind of been late stoppages, where you've kind of worked your way through and eventually kind of found it. You didn't rush it and push it. Do you kind of feel that after that split decision, you kind of thinking to yourself, maybe I should kind of maybe speed up a little bit? Does that kind of hit you in the head a little bit?
It did. I mean, it's one of those I don't ever like. I like to finish the fight. Obviously, that's what the fans want to see. But at the same time, I see so many guys rush for a finish. You see it on the weekend a little bit with Michael Chiesa. He spent so much time and so much energy looking for that choke and almost burnt himself out and then ended up getting finished himself. And I see that quite a lot where guys are overly eager to get the finish and it causes them to make mistakes or burn a lot of energy. So I've always tried not to rush when I'm in there, just take the fight as it comes. But I did go through a little phase early on in my pro career where I was just racking up all these first round finishes. And, I don't care what any fighter says. If you could pick a decision win or a first round finish, you're going to pick the first round finish every time. So it's one of those, the level I'm at, I don't think you can really predict a first round finish every single fight because the guys are so good. But if a finish presents itself this time round, and in the future fights as well, then I'll be looking to take, especially after the dodgy judge on the last one that somehow scored my opponent 2 rounds. I'm not sure how
Yeah,
he did that.
it's been very questionable lately. There's been a lot of really, really weird
Yeah.
scorecards coming around. No, and then you've only had out of your 3 fights the UFC 2 have been finished by sub. How bad do you want that TKO finish in the UFC?
Again, I'd love to. People love knockouts, then they knockouts and TKOs and the savage finishes. But it's not always. My dog's kicking. I don't know where he's barking at.
It
But
doesn't matter.
he's always spoiling my interviews. He's always getting involved in something.
I've noticed that he's a little feisty one.
But yeah, I would love to get a knockout. It's just a matter of, again, it's not something you can rush. I'm quite sort of methodical in my approach when it comes to fighting, and I don't like to sort of spoil my own work in sort of the hunt for a finish. I often find that the more you try to knock someone out, the less likely it is. Same with submission. The more you go out there and try and sub the guy, the tougher it is to get a submission win. So it'll come, the knockout will come eventually. It's just a matter of finding the right style of opponent who's in there with me, and I see the opportunity to take it.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're also in probably, I know a lot of people like to say the lightweight division is the most stacked, but I think it's kind of it's starting to think, everyone's starting to think now it's the bantamweight division that might be the most stacked in the entire UFC. It's incredible.
Without a doubt, man. Without a doubt, there's so many good guys coming through. Guys that are not even ranked, and then you're looking at them and thinking on the weekend, Casey Kenny and Song Yadong, 2 guys that are not ranked. You look at the weekend before, Yanez and Costa. There's O'Malley's not even ranked, I don't think, at the minute. So there's that many guys who are sort of well-known guys and relatively big names in the division that are not even in the top 15. Then you look from rank 15 to the champion, that's full of sharks and killers as well. So it's such a stacked division at the minute. It's like the perfect time to be a part of it. And it's for years, like you said, the lightweight has had a little bit of stick, really, like the flyweights, the bantamweights, the featherweights. People are not necessarily for years weren't so interested in those divisions. So to now be part of a bantamweight division that everyone's talking about, and every time there's a bantamweight fight on the card, there's all eyes on it. Is this going to be the next guy that's the up and comer? Then it's a great time for me, and I look forward to getting in the mix with all those top guys as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And you're one of you're part of a group of maybe 6 or 7 guys. Everyone's like, they're the future, they're the future, they're the future. So it's really cool to watch. And so going into that, you're in your next fight. Your allegedly next fight is with Said Nurmagomedov, who is actually not related to Khabib, just so people are aware of that, even though they have the last name, not the same family. What's your thoughts going into this alleged fight?
Yeah, look, he's a real good opponent. He's got a good record in the UFC, a very good striker. He's an elite level guy. There is no more to it. Combat Sambo champion, I believe. Good amateur record and a good record as a pro as well. I think we match up really well. We've got all the making stylistically for an exciting fight. And I'm looking forward to this one to show a bit more of my all-round game off. I got to show it a little bit more in the last one. I got to show that, I could strike and obviously defensive wrestle as well. So I'm looking forward to building on that this one. He's known as a good striker, and I'm more than comfortable to go in there and strike with him if that's what I've got to do. Being a Russian Sambo champion, I can't imagine he's going to be the easiest guy in the world to get in the ground. So if we got to strike a little bit and bang it out on our feet, then that's what we got to do. And I'll be happy to show people that I can compete with these top guys in every area.
Oh yeah, for sure. I said it earlier, he's not related to Khabib, but I think if you were just to come out and say I took Khabib's first L in coaching, I don't think a lot of people would doubt you. I think a lot of people would disbelieve you, on just casuals on Twitter, yeah, you did it.
Just run with that one, and how many of them's actually going to research and look like Khabib wasn't in the corner? Not many. No, exactly. So that's it. Maybe that's a bit of clickbait we'll go for after the fight.
100%. Do you have your call-outs figured out yet? Do you have someone in mind? Have you ever even thought about it?
There's a few guys that I see myself, I see on the TV, and I watch. I'm like a super fan. I watch every card from top to bottom. So there's a couple of guys I'd love a fight with in terms of the direction it'll push me in my career, but also in terms of, that'd be a fun fight to be involved in. But I think if I get a win, I definitely feel personally like I deserve a shot at someone in the rankings, whoever that be within the top sort of 15-10. I don't mind, but I do feel like if I can get a win here and look good doing it, then there's no reason why I can't be sort of pushing for a ranking spot by the end of the year or early next year. So we haven't got a specific name just yet. Obviously, I got a tough test in front of me, but I'll definitely after this one be vocal about wanting to fight those guys in the top 15. That's for sure.
I was gonna say, as someone, I watch every single card top to bottom. This past week was the first time I haven't watched one in God knows how long, and it was just because I was on vacation. But no, I feel like whenever guys get the win, they say, "Who do you want next?" And then they say maybe like, "I'll just take whoever UFC gives me." I feel like if you call someone like a couple names out in the bot, like pretty close to you, you're more likely to get it than just saying, "I'll take whoever." You
Yeah,
know what I'm
that's it.
saying?
Like you say, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be realistic with a call out at the same time. You see guys who are not even ranked calling out fucking Jose Aldo and stuff like that. But at the same time, like you said, if you can identify a couple of guys you'd love to get in a mix with, then the UFC 9 times out of 10 they're happy to make those fights happen. They're not difficult guys when it comes to matchmaking. If they know two guys want to fight, then we've seen it for years and years. They'll put the fight on. So maybe I'll have a little assess of the rankings and assess of the division now fight week and get a few names in mind.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so going into this fight, it was originally supposed to be in London. Now it's allegedly going to be in Las Vegas. How bummed are you though that you can't perform in front of your fans?
Yeah, it does put a little bit of it is a little bit of sting in that one, because it's pretty much twice now that I've been due to fight in London for the UFC, and twice it's sort of been the rug's been pulled from underneath us. You had obviously March 2020, I was booked to fight there with the main card, not the main card, sorry, with the fans, and then the COVID and everything took that one away. And for whatever reason, this one couldn't get lined up. But look, it's only a matter of time, I think, before we get back to some normality. I'd like to think if they couldn't get it done this time, then I should imagine they'll be working on it and laying some foundations ready for next year. So, I just want to get that fight in the UK or Europe to show to the UFC the fan base I've got in the UK. Like, I mean, when I fought in Copenhagen in my debut, I took like 400 Welsh guys over there, and I was on like 4 or 5 weeks notice that fight got. I mean, I knew about it for a long time, but we couldn't say until like 4 or 5 weeks before the fight, and within days of it being announced, the UFC, they were boys booking flights, booking hotels, hounding me for tickets, and I'm trying to say to them, I can't get tickets, you're going to have to go buy them online. So it will be nice when I eventually get an opportunity, whether it be London or another European card perhaps. It'll be nice to show that I got a big fan base over here, and they can make just as much noise as the Americans too.
You had I remember when you were back in Cage Warriors, you had a really cool walkout with Seven Nation Army. That was so tight. And I feel like a lot of you guys, I know Darren Till likes that kind of stuff. You probably come out to Sweet Caroline again, like just the theatrics that when you guys fight over there in London. It's electric. There's nothing about it. It's just you can't.
It's the atmosphere as well. Like the UK shows, whether they're a strong card or like a weak card, they always sell out. And I've been to watch as a fan, I've been to like 2 or 3 UFCs in London and Birmingham and stuff like that, and the atmosphere is always electric. And I think it's because they don't come to the UK. Obviously, they come there once a year, maybe twice a year if they're lucky. So when they do come, people want to make the most of it and want to have a good time, and that's what it's all about for us. As entertainers, we want to put a good show on for the guys, and it's nice for them to get to watch it live rather than staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning, our time to watch us on the TV. So I look forward to the day they come back, and we can get a nice big fan base over there for everyone to enjoy.
Oh hell yeah! When is do you know yet if they're going to be doing it at a more London friendly time? Are they going to push it up earlier in America, or are they going to do it the normal time in America than they do for Europe?
Yeah, I seen when they announced Till's fight a few days back. They said it's going to be prime time in UK and Ireland. So which I don't mind, because the last time I fought in Vegas, we fought on that sort of time zone. Like I was in the arena at 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and I fought at 9 a.m. So fingers crossed I'll be a bit higher up on the card so I can have a bit of a lie-in and don't have to be over there so early. But I think it's going to be prime time UK. So like 6 p.m. will probably be the start of the card. Till will probably make his walk at say 10 p.m. for us. So it'll be good that the fans haven't got obviously slog away all night to stay awake for it. But it just means us fighters got to get out of bed earlier. But it's not the end of the world. We did it last time, and we can do it again. It's not the end of the world.
You also did it in Fight Island, or did you do it in Fight Island? What time did
Yeah.
you guys fight when you were
So
over there?
Fight Island was the complete opposite. So Fight Island, we fought on American time. So we had to fight like 3 a.m. So I was the very first fight on, I think. I was the first prelim. And I fought 3 a.m. in the morning as the first prelim. So
Oh,
Fight
jeez.
Island, we had to sleep all day and then obviously stay up and train all night to get used to the time zone over there. So you never know. Maybe next year I'll have a fight where I can just work on my normal body clock, where I can just get up at a normal time and train at a normal time.
Oh yeah. What time when do you usually start like setting up for that time switch? Do you start doing it while you're over in the over in Walsh or?
No, so like basically, last time I fought in Vegas, and I'll do the same this time allegedly if I'm going to be fighting there. I'll go over like 10 days before, so we just try and like get our body clock onto Vegas time as soon as, and take it from there. To be honest, the early morning fights are not that bad a thing for me because I'm quite an early bird anyway. Like even in Wales, I'm up 6:30 a.m. and I'm in the gym by 7. So to fight and training. Like even when we were out in Vegas last time, we were in the gym like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. So by the time the fight came, I think I made my walk at like 9 in the morning. It was just I was on that routine anyway. I was used to getting up, getting out of bed, a quick bit of fuel and getting the job done. So I'll address like the body clock when I go over to Vegas. The hardest part, to be honest, is fighting the jet lag. Like as soon as you land in the afternoon, it's like you got this urge to just go and crash out for a few hours. But my team and my coaches make sure that they keep me up till like 11, 12 p.m. Vegas time, and then let me go to sleep and try and get me up early the next morning, so we don't have to spend too many days addressing the body clock.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, 100%. And so if you got, it's the weirdest thing about fighting that early is like I feel like you're used to you fight somebody and then when you leave the arena, it's like dark out, everyone's partying and all that. When you fought in Vegas and it looks like next time you're fighting in Vegas, you're gonna get out and it's gonna be like 9 a.m. in the morning. It's gonna be like 12. Is that ever weird?
Yeah, it was weird last time. Well, because like you said, we came out of the venue. I think it was been about 10:30, 11 a.m. So like obviously we weren't flying home till the Sunday, and obviously it was the COVID restriction, so we couldn't leave the hotel. And basically, if I left the fighter hotel at say like 12 p.m. on the Saturday afternoon, I wouldn't have been allowed back. So I would have had to wait around somewhere to get my flight home. So we stayed in the hotel. It was just like by like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we ran out of things to talk about. We was like, well, what do we do now for the rest of the day? We just lounged about and did nothing. So to be honest, it was a long day. Like it was, but this time obviously Vegas is open up now. I think the COVID restrictions are as good as gone out in Vegas from what I've been told. So fingers crossed they'll let us leave the hotel and we can go and have a look. Like I've never been to Vegas before. I went last time. I didn't even get to see any of it because it was just hotel bound for the full time music. So like people were saying to me, "Oh, you're so lucky going to Vegas." I was like, I just as well had gone to, I don't know, I just as well have fought down the road because I didn't see none of it. I was just in the hotel to the PI back to the hotel. So fingers crossed we see a bit more of it this time. And obviously with the fight being earlier in the day, we got a bit longer to have a look about before we finally fly home on the Sunday.
Yeah, I can tell in America everything's kind of just wide open for you. So I think
Yeah,
you'll be able
so
to enjoy Vegas
that's
a little
yeah.
bit.
Hopefully this time this is the one. This is the time where people can get jealous and we can go have a look about.
Oh yeah, for sure. Hell yeah. And so when you were in Fight Island, I know I've talked to a couple people about it and they've kind of said that it sounds really cool to the fans, but when you're there, it kind of sucks. Did it
Yeah,
for you? Was it
yeah,
even
it, it
that
did.
great?
And like, look, I don't want to sound like I'm not tarnishing the UFC at all. Like for them to put on a show like that, do in the middle of a full blown pandemic at the time, is incredible. But it was just a tough experience from start to finish, to be honest. Like, so I had to do 2 days isolation in a hotel room in London on my own. So no coaches, no nothing. Just somehow I had to train myself. Like fortunately, I took a kettlebell and a skipping rope, and so it was literally training in a small 1-man hotel room for 2 days. You got your days worth of travel, and then you got to spend 2 days isolating in a hotel room in Abu Dhabi, which was a little bit easier because I had my father in the room with me, so we could do pad work and stuff. But again, it's not ideal, especially when like fight week, I cut a lot of my weight by running and training a couple of times a day, just light workouts, but just sweating our weight off. Now, when you're stuck in an hotel room, there's only so many hours a day you can hit pads for before you get a little bit bored. And then obviously you had the time zone thing as well, where we had to sleep sort of all day, get up, late afternoon, and then train through the night, which was a bit of a ball ache as well. But I'm looking back on it, I'm grateful that I got to do it, because to look back in years to come and say, in the middle of the pandemic when the world was on shutdown, I ended up in Abu Dhabi for a fight in the UFC. It's not a story many people are going to be able to tell. And that's exactly why I took the fight. I took it on relatively short notice. But that's why I took it, because I thought I don't want to look back in years to come and think, I wish I went to Fight Island and fought when I had the chance. But it was a tough experience. It is not as, the facility and stuff is as good as it looks. But as far as fight week and stuff like that, it was a slog, put it that way. It was like the first class fight and stuff like that is great. But when you're stuck in an hotel room for 5 days, trying to cut weight by doing circuits and pad work and trying to sleep all day and stay up all night, it is a bit of a tough one. But, I'm glad I done it nonetheless.
Did you have the racing going on in the background? Could you hear like those cars going at it and trying to sleep? Oh, that must be so annoying.
Yeah, from what I can remember, it didn't disrupt the sleep too much, because a lot of the time, but we was just sort of getting up as they were racing on the track. But
okay,
I know a lot of the guys were on like a lot, because we did a little bit of a different. Like some guys weren't getting up to like 12, like till midnight, whereas we was getting up like 4 or 5 p.m. so we could get a couple of sessions in and then relax. Although we were staying up through the night, we were just trying to relax a little bit. Whereas I know some guys were trying to sleep, and they could just hear the cars going around the track, and it's like, this isn't ideal. But at the same time, it is what it is. We got to fight, we got to make money, and we got to keep the ball rolling. So we can't complain, especially as European guys who were not able to fly to Vegas at the time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so you claimed you were a chubby kid growing up. Were you really a chubby kid growing up?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. Like
so was I.
Yeah, I was never. This is why I say to the guys in the gym, like, even like, don't be wrong, I'm in decent shape now, but back in the day, I was never blessed athletically. I was never strong. The only I was weirdly fit for a little chubby kid. I had a good engine for a little chubby kid, but other than that, I wasn't blessed with good genetics or many good natural attributes. I was just pretty fit, and I picked up technique fast. And obviously, because I was in the gym constantly growing up, as I got older and started taking my diet more serious and my training more serious, thankfully I slimmed down a little bit. And all the boys I grew up with and trained with in the gym, they've obviously moved up through the weight categories from like the age of 14 to whereas I seem to have come down. I think I had my first fight as a 16 or 17, I was fought a welterweight, then I fought a lightweight, then I went pro and fought a featherweight, and I'm fighting a bantamweight. So, I've where everyone else is going up through the weights as they get older, I seem to be coming down. But we will be stopping a bantam. There's no flyweight in the future. Put it that way.
Oh, I would never want to go that far down.
No.
So what was your max weight then?
I think the heaviest I ever walked around that would have been about 80 kilos. So what's that in pounds? That's about 180 pounds, something like that. There or thereabouts. And that was like, it's insane. Like, to think back, I was just like, I used to say to my father, why do you stop me from eating? You should have just took my food away for a couple of days at a time. But to be honest, looking back, I'm glad it did. It would have been great to have great metabolism and genetics. But looking back, what it did do was sort of, it refined my technique as a youngster and refined my sort of, because growing up, I was never strong in the gym. There were boys my own age and obviously training with the men that were way stronger, way more athletic. But I was always better technically. So in my head, I always thought, right, you're not the strongest for your size. You're obviously out of shape. You need to focus on technique and make sure that your technique is flawless. So that when it comes to these, fights and competitions, you can rely on your technique. And, I still sort of carry that to my fighting style today. I don't rely on brute force or athleticism for anything. I rely on technique and having good fundamentals. So it set me in good stead. Don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit more athletic now than I was back then. But as a chubby kid growing up, you got two options. You either sort of get good technically, or you're just going to get smashed on the mat. So that's what I did. I got good technically, and thankfully it paid off.
Do you ever? I know I still have this because I used to be a chubby kid too. Like, do you ever have these moments, or let's say you have a cheat day, or you have a cheat meal, and then afterwards you think like, dude, I'm fat as fuck.
Oh, mate, listen, right? I am, even to this day, I've got the fat kid in me, because I'm the biggest glutton you will ever meet when it comes to when it comes to being out of camp or having not so much a cheat meal in camp, because I don't eat like, bad food in training camp. But when I'm out of camp, like the week after the fight, like I would be full to the point where I feel sick, and then there's half a pizza left on the side, and I'm like, don't throw it out, like leave it there. I'll come back to it. And it's like, why you like? I sometimes I'm thinking to myself, why are you still eating? Like you're full, you can't physically eat anymore. I'm still thinking, maybe I'll eat it later. So I'm a proper glutton. Like I eat for the sake of it sometimes out of fight camp, and I think that's just still the fat kid in me. But it's the same. Like I put on a couple of kilo out of camp, and I'm like self-consciously looking at myself in the mirror, like thinking, that fat kid's coming back. You better get back on the treadmill and back on the salads.
Oh no, I feel like after I eat something too, I'm like, I gotta go work out like the car and go
Yeah.
really hard, bro. I gotta bust my balls to try to
I'm the
get
other
all
way
this fat
around. Like
off.
I would I try and train before I eat so that I don't feel guilty then when I eat. So I know if I have a grueling session and I go home and eat a bit of shit when I'm not in training camp, a
The,
bit of
the,
junk.
the, the worst though is when you'll work out before and then you still eat and then you're like, fuck, I gotta go back in tomorrow and go even
Yeah.
harder.
I'm ready for it. I'm usually like, right, I'm gonna have to just deal with this in the morning. I'll get on the run and punish myself for extra half hour on the running machine.
Exactly. That's how I am too. Exactly. And so, at what point, like in your like training or maybe in the amateur circuit, did you realize that you were going to become a professional fighter?
So I always had sort of the goal of being professional, because like all the boy, like I'm obviously like 5 or 6 years younger than some of the top names from my gym, like Jack Marshman, Chris Edwards, and Martin McDonald at the time. So like as I was growing up as an amateur, they were obviously all established pros. So I always wanted to fight as a pro, but I never sort of, I don't know if for a long time I never thought of even getting to the UFC or nothing like that. I just thought just go pro. You know, the natural step after amateur was turning pro, and then I signed up to do the IMAF as an amateur. It was my last 4 fights as an amateur. I was at the European IMAF tournament, and I remember thinking to myself, well, if you can do all right here, then these are the best of the best in Europe, and there's guys from Russia, Bulgaria, stuff like that. Like these are elite level guys, and I sort of cruised through the first 3 guys, early finishes, and then dominated in the final. And then I remember thinking to myself, you know, there's what everyone was saying to me for years. Oh, you're going to be in the UFC. I was starting to think maybe I am, a little bit different to some of the other boys I'm training with. Like naturally, I was fighting guys with like 7, 8-0, 9-0 records, and just taking them out in a round. And then it started to sink home a little bit. Then that like, look, you're good at this. You dedicate yourself to it properly. And we'll see where it goes. And then obviously I turned pro. When with Cage Warriors, I started training full time, like 3 times a day, whereas before I was working or going to university and then just training the night. And then my attitude with Cage Warriors was always like, don't worry about the belt or the UFC, just take one fight at a time. And then I started beating good level guys. Like I was 4-0, I beat a guy who was 1 fight away from a title shot. Then I beat a UFC veteran, and I beat like 3 guys out of the 4 that I thought were undefeated. And I thought, maybe now, we're not a million miles away. And then when they offered me the title shot, then I sort of thought, right, here's my chance. We get a title here and defend it, then we're going to be on our way. And that's when it sort of sunk in early in the Cage Warriors days when I was taking out good level guys. I was only young, like 21, 22, and I was taking out guys with triple the amount of experience, a lot older than me, a lot physically stronger, and I was just finding a way to get them out of there. So it sunk in, early in the Cage Warriors days is when I thought, I think I'm a little bit different to the rest of these guys. I'm cut out to be sort of at the top level.
What was it like then to get the call from the UFC?
Yeah, it was insane. It was like, as a kid, I always dreamed of being in the UFC. Like, that doesn't become a realization or a goal in your mind until you start establishing yourself as a pro. But grew up watching UFC. Like all my friends in school were into watching the football and watching rugby, and I was just watching UFC constantly. And
didn't you play rugby growing up?
Yeah, I played rugby as a youngster. I stopped playing again. I was a decent rugby player. I was never going to be, world class rugby player, but I could have probably played at an half decent level in terms of like domestically. And again, like 16, I was just like, I just want to fight and just train in the gym. So I give up rugby to do that. But again, I just dreamt of it as a kid constantly. I thought, what would it be like to put a pair of UFC gloves on, or to see Dana White, or to have Bruce Buffer announce your name? And then when you finally get the text and the contract come through, you know, and they say, look, they're interested and they want to sign you. It's like, it just didn't feel real. And to be honest, it didn't feel real up until the point where Bruce Buffer announced my name in the actual octagon. Like everything through fight week, from like signing the posters, weighing in, stuff, it didn't feel real. It was like a dream. And then when we started fighting, obviously I thought, right, well, you are actually here to do a job now, so don't get too caught up in the, you know, you've realized the dream. But it was just a surreal feeling. Like I can't really even put it into words, if I'm honest, how strange it felt. Strange in a good way, but you know, it didn't feel real.
Was there like was the Bruce Buffer announcing game like your welcome to the UFC moment, or did you have like a moment in a fight where you're like, oh shit, like I'm in the UFC right now?
I think it was the Bruce Buffer thing, but why I think it was during our first fight, because I finished him in the third one, because it was quite a long fight. I had a chance to sort of, there was no pressure on me then, because I had gone from fighting on Cage Warriors as the main event, and I had this big card built around me in an arena in Wales, to then going to the UFC, and I was first on. So there was, don't be wrong, the arena was full, but like there was only a couple of hundred people there who probably knew who I was. So I just felt like an amateur again. Like I thought, there's no pressure on me. I just went out there and started getting into a rhythm, and like it was a world class guy in front of me, and obviously I was dominating, like on the feet, on the floor, and it just sort of felt like, you know, you deserve to be here. You're here for a reason, and that was when it hit home. Then, like, you know, you're actually here now. The goal was always to get the UFC, but now like we got to set new goals now of, let's get in the top 15, get in the top 10, get in the top 5, push for that title. Like, I realized that I'm obviously good enough to be in the UFC, but now I just want to be. I want to be even better. You know, I want to be good enough to have that ranking next to my name, where people can look at me and say, this guy's like ranked number 10 in the world, and then push that as far as I can go, and hopefully eventually fight and get our UFC title in Wales would be the ultimate dream now. So, but the Bruce Buffer one, that was funny, because like I'm in the cage, and again, like when your adrenaline's flowing, like I tried to get in the zone and not focus on what's going around me. But like when Bruce Buffer's this far from your face, you know, giving it the full whack like he does, and then I hear him say, from Abertillery, Wales, and I was just like, this is fucking bonkers, to be honest. So that was something I always sort of relate back to, is having Bruce there and thinking, you know, that's like, everyone knows Bruce Buffer. Let's be real, anyone who's interested in MMA knows Bruce Buffer. So that was definitely one that I thought, you know, I've dreamt of this one for years as well. Hearing Bruce Buffer say Jack Shaw, and now we're finally here.
Do you kind of so obviously we kind of talked about the crowds. So like, you came into UFC, you're like the first card. Did you only have one fight before the pandemic hit? Am I accurate on that?
Yeah, my debut was before the pandemic, and then the others has been since.
Then ever since, that you've been fighting on all these shows with no fans. Is it almost kind of like, not a blessing, but do you always kind of think to yourself, man, it's kind of nice to get all these kind of prelim fights kind of out of the way with no fans, when usually when you're at these fights, there really isn't anyone there anyway in the prelims. Is it kind of nice?
If I'm honest, I prefer the crowd. Like, even if it's only, like you said, even like in Vegas, I've never fought in front of a crowd in Vegas, but I hear like the crowd doesn't get in until like the co-main and the main. But even then, like, even if there's a couple of hundred people in there, I just prefer that little bit of atmosphere, like the walkout, the intros. It just feels a little bit more intense, and that's sort of, I thrive off like an intense atmosphere and a big atmosphere. Whereas, don't get me wrong, I stay intense with the no crowd, but there was sort of places in the last, like, not so much in Fight Island because it was quite a quick finish, but in the last fight, obviously I won the 3 rounds, and it was sort of like areas where you could feel that there was no one in the arena. You know, all I could hear was the 2 corner teams and a little bit of the commentary. So if I really wanted a crowd for this one, you know, but it's not going to happen. So,
but you get a little bit of a crowd at the Apex.
It may be, yeah. I know they're starting to get a couple in the Apex now, but even that, even that, if they get 50 to 100 people in there, even that, you're in a little bit of, you know, atmosphere and feeling that will feel good. You know, it's something I've missed, to be honest. Like, I've gone from, like I said, fighting in front of packed out crowds in Wales to I've had one big crowd, and then there's been none for the last 2. So for me, the more people watching, the better. You know, I'd rather fight in a football stadium with 100,000 people in there than fighting in an empty arena. You know, it's something I prefer.
I feel like that's something that you can't replicate, that atmosphere. Like the first fight's back in the US. Like, that shit was just electric.
You could feel it. I mean, even the fighters, you could see with the fighters, the way people were performing for that first crowd with fans was insane. People were just going for broke from the very beginning.
No, yeah, it was. Oh yeah, there was nuts. And to be fair, the card lived up to it too. Like the
Oh,
first
of
fight
course.
was insane. It was nuts. So I got some really dumbass questions. So these are quick answers, short, long answers. However you want to do it. This is the first thing we kind of talked about it. What's the funniest thing you've heard during a fight?
The funniest thing I've heard during the fight probably goes back to the fighting in Wales days. There's a guy who trains with me, Chris Lane. Like only the boys from the gym will know him, and he turns up to every fight, and he's one of those guys that purposely shouts like just the wildest things, like that make no sense. So I remember being on top of no, sorry, I remember having someone on the cage, and his classic go-to, Chris, he sort of shouts, "Lift him, slam him, and knock him out." And I remember being in a fight and hearing him shout that and thinking, I know exactly who that is and exactly where he's coming from. And it was one of those where I had to sort of like stop focusing on him, now focus on the fight. But old Chris Lane has got that one in the bag.
So you've never heard anyone say like, I remember when Till fought Masvidal in Liverpool or London, someone yelled, "Kick him in the dick." You've never heard anything like
No,
that?
nothing like that. Nothing like usually I'm pretty the only people I can hear usually is my corner team and obviously focusing on the fight. But because I'm so used to hearing Chris shout that at all the local shows and hearing him shout it in the gym and stuff, when he shouted it, it was just hard for me not to recognize who that was.
Oh yeah. So have you ever? And I know we kind of also talked about it a second ago. Have you ever heard anyone? Did you ever hear the commentary team commenting and like kind of fixate something and how you're fighting based on like what something like DC says or
I
Bisping or
did
Anik?
in my debut. Just before the finish, I had the guy on the ground, and like so we was like against the cage, and behind us was Felder, Dan Hardy, and John Gooden. And I remember I knew there was a long left on the clock. I knew there was about 2 minutes or whatever. So I remember having his back. I was well up on point, so I thought, right, let's just push for a finish now because the decision's in the bag. So I remember, like, if you watch the fight, it starts off as like a neck crank rather than a rear naked choke. It's across his jaw. And I remember thinking, oh, I'll just try and rough him up a little bit here and see if I can slip my other arm in. So I started like putting a bit of a squeeze on, and like it felt like Dan Hardy was right in my ear by ear, and I could just hear him going, "Oh, that's tight, that's tight, that's tight." And I thought, "Fuck, I'll just well keep squeezing." But I thought that must because I couldn't see the guy's face. They could see on the camera he was grimacing. So I was like, "I'll keep it on," and I just squeezed and got a tap. So I got to thank Dan Hardy for that one a little bit because I probably would have given up on it and tried to slide my other arm through for a rear naked. But thanks to him, I heard that the neck cramp was on.
That's pretty wild. That is nuts. You guys can actually hear that. What's the weirdest question you've ever been asked in your entire professional career?
The weirdest question.
One has to stick.
Like what? Like by like a journalist or just by anyone?
Anyone. It could be literally anyone.
Anyone. The crazy like where I'm from is quite a small town, so every time I go for a night out after a fight, I always get bombarded by people with questions and stuff like that. And just it's not so much crazy, but like probably the cringiest when I had some boy come up to me a bit younger than me. I never met him before, didn't have a clue who he was. And I see him coming up, I'm expecting the old, oh, well done on your fight, like all of that stuff. He just comes up to me, looks me dead in the eye and goes, "How much do you make for that last fight?" And I was just like, what? I was like, I don't know. Like, why would I be telling you that sort of stuff? So that's the weirdest one. Like, just, and I had a Stone Island jacket on. I was like, I can't, I'm not going to tell you how much I made. And he just looks at my jacket and goes, "All right, how much do you pay for that jacket?" I was like, "Fuck off." What'd you pay?
That is sus. That kid's sus. Do you have any weird like pre-fight rituals?
No, not like weird ones. I have certain ones I do like the day before, the night before. Really, the only real ritual I have is just trying after the weigh, and I just try to switch off from the fight, like and until the next day. I try to just enjoy refueling. Like me and the team will do something in the night. We'll watch a film, go for a bit of food. Just try and take my mind off it, and then focus on it the next day. As far as like fight day goes, it's I'm one of those. I'm a bit weird in the sense of a weird one is like guys like music to get themselves hyped up. Like I need silence. Like I just need complete silence in the changing room. Only people I want to use my coaches and because I like to get in my own head and sort of speak to myself and focus on the game plan and focus on my own mental. So I don't like no music. I don't like the sort of hype myself up or calm myself down with music. It's just like I need silence I need to be in my own thoughts.
Do you how many times do you pee before you walk out there? Because I feel like if
Oh
I
man.
like right before a fight, dude, if I've got to go fight, I feel like I would instantly just get a feeling of, oh man, I gotta go piss.
Well, because obviously as well, like because you're obviously a day from the weigh-in, so because you're constantly drinking and fluctuating so much water into you to make sure you're hydrated for the fight, you're just constant. And like in the Apex, the changing room is more like a big room with a matted area. So the toilet is about like a minute. You gotta walk like a minute down the corridor to get to the toilet. So like every single time I need to go, it was like I had to keep my like because the gloves are taped. So I had to like get to take my gloves off. Then I had to go to the toilet, drop my shorts, drop my groin guard, put my trainers on. It was just a proper ordeal. So in the Apex, but again, I can't help it. Like I gotta go like 4 or 5 times within the space of an hour sometimes before a fight. And then we get to a certain stage, and then like my old man used to do it all the time. He used to say to me, just about to walk out, do you need to go to the toilet? And I'd be like, well, I do now because you've put the thought in my head. So I say to him now half hour before the fight, I'm like, don't mention going to the toilet now. Just let me like not worry about it. Because if the thought don't enter my head, then I won't go. But the minute he says, do you need to go for a quick piss? And I'm like, now I'm gonna have to go.
Do you ever have one of those? Do you ever have a thought in the octagon? You're like, oh fuck, I gotta like if he hits me in the stomach a certain way, I'm gonna shit my pants.
Thankfully not, but I know the Black Beast has had it. I know a couple of guys have had it. So fingers crossed, touch wood, but that one doesn't come on me anytime soon. Hopefully.
God, I hope not. Imagine, I feel like one day someone's just you're gonna see a brown spot on those shorts.
100%, 100%. That's why you should never pick the white shorts.
Never, because you'll never know. How obnoxiously hot was it in Abu Dhabi?
The arena wasn't too bad, obviously, because it was air conditioned. But you, like, even just sat on the balcony in the hotel room. I think the one day it hit 48 degrees or 49 degrees, and like we don't get a lot of sun in Wales. We know you like it was like 25 degrees last week, and everyone was complaining about how warm it is. So for it to be that sort of temperature, like that was probably the only positive about sleeping through the day was that you miss like the peak heat. But even in the night, man, it's like 30 degrees, 35 degrees. So you can't even sit on a balcony in the night without breaking a sweat. So it was insane. It's like it's not just the heat, it's the humidity as well. It's like as if there's no air. Like I don't know what it is. It's like even in Vegas, you get the occasional breeze, and it just that Abu Dhabi heat is something else. It's just constantly warm. You're constantly warm unless you're sat in front of the aircon unit, and you're constantly breaking a sweat.
At least it's good for the weight cut when you're running and stuff. At least it's hot as hell.
Yeah, well,
Get
it
more
is
sweat.
good for the weight cut. But I was speaking to my nutritionist afterwards, and he said basically the more when the humidity level is high, it's not tougher for your body to sweat early on, but obviously as you start dehydrating, it becomes harder to break a sweat because your body is conscious that obviously you're in a humid situation. So it starts holding on to water, which probably made the weight cut, like in Vegas, the weight cut was easy. Whereas in Abu Dhabi, it was a tough cut because, well, it didn't help that we were stuck in the hotel room for 5 days, but also to break that initial sweat was tough. Like I was led on the balcony at one point. I think I had about a pound to go. And I was sweating more led inside, wrapped up, in the hotel room, rather than you would think lying on a balcony where it's like 40 odd degrees, the sweat would come out you more, but it was actually not warmer, sorry, but it was actually easier to keep the sweat going inside the room because it wasn't as humid. I don't know the science behind it, but it was good for the weight cut in the sense of breaking a sweat. But when them pounds start coming down and you're getting low in weight, it did make it difficult.
That's so weird that all works. Another question then is, who's your favorite fighter to watch at the moment?
Favorite fighter at the moment, he's always been my favorite fighter to watch. Is Nate Diaz. I've always been, and it's probably surprising because obviously like he's got this like fuck you attitude, whereas I'm quite quiet and I'm not a trash talker. But I've always been like a massive fan of the Diaz brothers ever since watching him on The Ultimate Fighter. Like every fight he's ever had, I've always tuned in, and like he'll always be my favorite fighter to watch because you just can't predict what's going to happen. Like even in his last, like the McGregor fight, no one thought he was going to win that. He ends up winning.
The Edwards fight, he fucking clipped him.
Who
that's
else?
Crazy.
Like if Edwards had been fighting anyone else, like going into that 5th round, you'd have just been like, well, it's done now. He's getting dominated. Like only Nate Diaz could land that shot with 30 seconds to go. And seriously, like, because Leon, I don't think I've ever seen Leon rocked apart from that.
Never.
So,
He
so
probably has been, but he's pretty good at taking a
yeah,
shot.
and his striking is like elite level. So then you've got
Yeah.
Nate Diaz, who's quite scrappy on the feet. Like me and the boys, you were saying, only he could go out there and do something like that. And you got to feel for Leon a bit, because like it took the shine off how good a performance he had. Like, he dominated 24 minutes of the fight, and then Nate lands out one shot, and it's like all of a sudden, everyone's like, yeah, if he'd had another minute. But yeah, it always has been, and as long as he keeps fighting, it'll always be Nate Diaz.
That was the most Leon Edwards thing too. That like he
I know.
has the worst
He's the
luck.
most.
Were you
Has the
cheering for
most.
Leon or were you cheering for Nate?
I had to sit on the fence a bit, to be honest, like, because like if Leon had been fighting anyone else in the division, I always support Leon, because he's a British guy. He's the front runner at the minute. I think he will go on to win the title, or if not win. Usman is a tough fight. Don't get me wrong, but I think he can beat everyone else in our division to put himself in the spot to win that belt. But like, being a Nate Diaz fan since I was 12 years of age, there was a little bit of me thinking, I can't want Nate to lose. So I just sat on the fence and was just like, but I'm just glad the fight's over now, and I'm just like, I hope they don't do the rematch. I hope Leon goes on to fight someone else, and Nate goes on to fight someone else. But Leon is the front runner. Him and Darren Till and Arnold Allen, they're the main men at the minute in the UK. So I fingers crossed he gets that title shot next for me.
Oh, I hope so too. I love Leon. I think he's kind of like not a boogeyman, but he's just kind of, he has the worst luck.
Yeah,
He's had the worst luck out of anyone I've ever seen. Like the eye poke of Bilal, like that was one of those things too, where he was kind of saying, he was like, I was just putting my hand out to kind of like, I think he didn't expect him to come in or something.
It could only happen to him, couldn't it? That eye
yeah,
poke.
it only happens to him.
It could have only happened to him. Everyone else, it wouldn't have even been a factor.
No, I thought the most Leon thing to happen would be like if Bilal like lost his sight and then like all go back to Leon, and Leon's like, what the fuck?
Thankfully, he didn't.
Thankfully, yeah, no, but it's just, that sucks. What's the next question I got? All right, what's your favorite beer? Is there a favorite beer in Wales?
Believe it or not, I don't actually drink beer. I'm not. I not through like not drinking. I drink spirits, but I just don't like beer. So as far as like as far as alcoholic beverages, Grey Goose vodka. That's my go-to every time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You like the goose? Goose is loose. Do you have any other weird friendships like you do with Theo Vaughn?
No, probably not. Theo Vaughn is probably the weirdest one, like, because it's just come out of nowhere. I'm pretty friendly with Flex Lewis as well, but I don't think that's a weird one. Obviously, Flex being a Welsh guy, and he's a big MMA UFC fan, so me and him are pally. But yeah, Theo Vaughn's a weird one just because it came out of nowhere. Like, I remember I wasn't even in the UFC when me and him started sort of
really
speaking. Like, I was the Cage Warriors champion, and it was my last fight in Cage Warriors, and I remember I think I put a story up on my Instagram of his podcast and tagged him in and just like, oh, Theo Vaughn helping get me through fight week. And he like sort of messaged me. And then after the fight, he messaged well done. And then like I got in the UFC, obviously he was wishing me well. Next thing I know, then he's like shouting me out on his podcast. He's like messaging me to come on King and the Sting. And I've done a couple of Instagram lives and he's dropped in on here and he's interacting with people. So it came out of nowhere, but it's crazy for me because I'm a big fan. I went to watch him in London back before the lockdown last year in January, and even then he messaged me after. He was like, "I wish I'd known you was there." He said, "I would have, we could have met up." But yeah, he's a funny guy, man. He's my at the minute. Well, he's my favorite comedian and my favorite podcast to listen to, without a doubt.
So now I have 2 questions left. One is more important probably, and that is, what's your KDR in Warzone?
My KD is not. What is it at the minute? I think it's like 0.99. So
you're right there.
I'm on a bit of a run. I'm like, I had a look on the app earlier, and at the minute, I think this week my KD is sky high. It's like 1.4 because I've been a machine on it this week. I just had a win now actually before we come on here. Me and my friend just carried him to a win, 12 kill win. So my KD, but I'm pushing hard. I'm pushing hard to break that 1.00. If I can get there, I'll be happy.
Oh, I know. I remember when I first started, I fucking sucked for like the first month or so. And then I was stuck at like 0.75, then I was at 0.8, then 0.85, then 0.9. Now I'm like at a 1.2 1.2, 1.15, something like that. But no, that like breaking through, you'll get to that one, you're like, oh, thank God I did
I
it.
know, that's it.
And then after like a couple games, you're back below it again.
That's it. Yeah, that's the problem. I'll get there and I'll be watching it religiously. Then I think, fuck, I'm gone below again.
It's the worst. And then the last question, it's kind of cookie cutter, but you got to ask, how are you going to finish the fight then against Saad Nurmagomedov?
I honestly think I'm going to catch him in a submission. I think my striking will match up very well to his. I think he's very flashy, very unorthodox. I'm a little bit more traditional with my boxing and my Muay Thai. I'm not a guy you're going to see throwing spinning back kicks and wheel kicks, but as far as fundamentals go with the hands and the kicks, I'm pretty decent. So I think it'll be a bit of a striking match, and I do see me taking him down. I know his wrestling's going to be good, being a Russian guy and being a Sambo guy, but I do see me taking him down late on. And, I am dangerous, especially late on when guys start to get tired. It's sort of, I get stronger as the fight goes on. And I think if I can impose my ground game on him early on in a round where I've got time to work, then I think I'll catch him in the sub late on.
So I'm going to go ahead and say this for all my degenerate gamblers, including myself. Let's take Jack round 2, round 3 subs.
Yeah, one or the other.
Will be real
if you've got a bit of money to splash, do round 2 and round 3 just to be safe.
Just to be safe. So with that said, man, I'm good with all the questions. If there's anything you want to promote, go for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Let's promote my guys. Follow me on Twitch. I'm a Twitch affiliate now. I don't really know what that means, but I've been told it's good. So, Jack Show MMA on Twitch, Jack Show MMA on YouTube as well. They are my two go-tos at the minute. Obviously, everyone's probably already. If you're watching this interview, you probably already follow me on social media anyway. So, and big shout out to the team down at Show MMA.
All right, for me, for Jack, we're out. Peace.